gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The show starts in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Dear guests, ladies and gentlemen, to honor our country, let's let us all rise for the listening of the Indonesian national anthem, Indonesia Raya. Thank you. Please be seated. The Honorable Chairman of Law Caritas Manokwari Papua, Professor Dr. Robert K.M. Amar, Distinguished Speaker, Professor Dr. Peter Ferguson from University of Antwerp, Belgium, Distinguished Speaker, Professor Pan Johong from Yongsan
Ya,
University.
selamat sore, pembawa acara. Suaranya tidak terlalu jelas. Belum terlalu jelas. Jadi, saya akan memulai saja karena waktu kita sudah jam segini. Oke, Bapak, Ibu, dan saudara yang saya hormati, my honorable chairman of Papua Caritas Foundation of Setia Maisa Manokwari, and which I respect the STH Caritas Papua Academic Civitas, and then I respect the Associator SAMH. Professor Park Jo-hoon from Yongsan University, South Korea, Dr. Happy David Chadon, Jawaharlal Nehru University, India, Professor Dr. Peter Verheyen, University of Antwerp, Belgium, and Dr. Hendrikus Renyaan, SLM CLA, STH Caritas Papua. In this recent opportunity, I invite you to praise the presence of God Almighty for this participation. So we are all given strength and health and attend in seminar activities with the new paradigm in the aspect of natural resources law. My honorable and welcome Professor Park Jo-hoon, Dr. Happy, and Professor Dr. Peter Verheyen, and Dr. Hendrikus, and all my respect for audience. Currently, the management of natural resources, especially the mining sector is still massive and extractive, so natural resources reserve are increasingly rare and lacking. The world is also increasingly threatened to run of natural resources. On the other hand, damage to natural damage caused by indescribable management of natural resources also happen. Therefore, Caritas Law called to a discussion in the international webinar on natural resources management, but in India and globally be enduring shortages from the South Korea, Belgium, and Indonesia. Finally, with the grace of God Almighty, I am the chairman of STH Caritas Papua, opening a new paradigm term international webinar in the aspect of natural resources law. That is all, and thank you. Thank you very much. Terima kasih dan selamat siang dan selamat sore. Selesai.
So let's enjoy Caritas video profile for starting our seminar.
Silakan pembawa acara, itu sepertinya kurang ya, tidak terdengar baik.
So let's enjoy Caritas video profile before starting our seminar.
Ya.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera untuk kita semua. Sekolah Tinggi Ilmu Hukum STIH Bintuni Manokwari didirikan oleh Yayasan Caritas pada tanggal 18 Agustus 2002 hingga 2010. Kemudian dirubah menjadi Yayasan Caritas Papua dan tempat perkuliahan berlangsung di Bintuni pada tahun 2010 hingga tahun 2018. Pendirian kampus STIH Bintuni Manokwari saat itu adalah untuk menunjang pemekaran Kecamatan Bintuni menjadi Kabupaten Teluk Bintuni pada tanggal 9 Juni 2003. Namun, seiring dengan perkembangan, akhirnya pada tahun 2019, Pusat Akademik dan Administrasi STIH Bintuni dipindahkan ke Manokwari sesuai dengan perizinannya, yakni Sekolah Tinggi Ilmu Hukum Bintuni di Manokwari yang berpusat di Lembah Hijau, Kabupaten Manokwari, Provinsi Papua Barat, yang memiliki 4 kekhususan, yakni kekhususan hukum adat agraria, kekhususan hukum bisnis, hukum pidana, dan hukum kenegaraan. Adapun letak kampus yang sangat strategis yang terletak di pusat kota Manokwari yang dikelilingi oleh hutan lindung maupun hutan adat, sehingga udara di area kampus terasa sejuk yang membuat mahasiswa merasa betah ketika berada di kampus.
Now I will introduce our moderator, Dr. Wati Susetio.
Okay. Okay, thank you. I think we got a problem with the MC, yeah?
Yes.
I will take it. Yeah.
And Dr. Diki, FRC of Brawijaya University. And he also did a legal research at PT Java Investment from 1994 till 2000, and also as an assistant judge of the Constitutional Court from 2004 till 2009. Dean of the Faculty of Law, University of El Salvador, 2010 till 2020, and then members of the Grant of Law Commission, Ministry of Law and Human Rights from 2018 till 2020. The legal component and internal BUMD, news is and BUMN. So all participants, please welcome Dr. Wasitu Setio SHMH.
Okay, thank you for MC, Mrs. Ellen. How is my voice? My sound, is it good, clear?
Yeah, clear.
It is a wonderful moment, yeah, to have this event, because we have participants not only from Indonesia, but also, yeah, I see the monitor. I think they come from also participants from India and South Korea. All right, honorable guest, chairman of Caritas Law School, Manokwari, Papua, my best friend, Professor Dr. Robert Kahamar, distinguished speaker, colleges, Professor Peter from Belgium, Park Ji-ho from South Korea, and then David Jawaharlal Nehru University, India. And last but not least, yeah, my friend, Professor Henrik, yeah, from STH Caritas. Well, I think this is very interesting topic today regarding our topic of international webinar today, the new paradigm of natural resource management. Of course, we need it, as we know it has time we exploit our natural resources extractively and massively, and then in the Papua, yeah, this is very relevant when STIH Caritas, yeah, hold this seminar. Yeah, therefore this international is very relevant in the midst of issue of global warming. Yeah, not only global warming, but also the knowledge of the environmental, whose impact we are increasingly feeling and even starting to touch here European and American countries. Yeah, I think we feel now, yeah, the temperature, yeah, now getting higher and higher, yeah, especially in yeah, it's very hot. So that's why, yeah, I think now we also have IPCC code red warning. Recently, yeah, scientists who are members of the Intergovernmental Panel of Climate Change, or IPCC, gave a warning in the form of code red mankind. Horrible. This special seminar, yeah, focus on the issues of not only maybe environmental, but also how to manage natural resource in the future. Yeah, as we know, yeah, right now, the new paradigm of natural resources, we have the concept of natural resources accounting. I think all speakers today, yeah, maybe Professor Peter, Professor Park Ji-ho, and then also Professor David Pratnam, and the last is Professor Henrik, yeah, can explain, giving us insight and then also the perspective related to the natural resource management. So, well, no longer explanation, it can be delivering our further outstanding presentation by 4 speakers today. Before starting, we know our mechanism, try to make like panel, yeah, panel discussion. So for the first, I invite Professor Park Ji-ho, yeah. Yeah, because it is kind of limited time. We consider about, you know, Papua right now. What time is it now? Maybe 4 o'clock, yeah? Professor Park Ji-ho, yeah, she is the professor from Yongsan University, yeah. I know Yongsan University has MOU also, yeah, with Caritas University. Yeah, she is professor in international humanitarian law. Yeah, and now working at ICRC editorial board. Yeah, and also teaching in University of Pennsylvania Law School. Yeah, and also graduated from George Washington University Law Institute and Yonsei University. Yeah, I think it is very interesting. Yeah, please welcome Professor Park Joo-hoon for the first speaker. Maybe we can take about 20 or 30 minutes for the presentation. After that, we'll be proceed to the another presenter. Okay, time and monitor is yours. Thank you.
Okay. Hello, everyone. It's a really great day today. And hopefully the weather you're staying is a good also. Thank you, and I'm really grateful that I got invited by the University Caritas at Papua. And thank you for the invitation. Is it mic okay? Also, good to have Professor Happy, David Pradhan, and Peter better had then, sorry, and Dr. Hans Cruz, and of course, moderator Dr. Wasis. Information about the paradigm, how Korean people are handling development and also the environment. So there is a leverage between the economic development because we have to grow every year, and there is also hope that we can sustainably using the environment. So I'm going to talk about the Korean experience. Hopefully we can share each other and get the insight of each other's wisdom, and we can make like a moderator Wasis said, we are facing climate change, and hopefully we can solve one or two problems using our all for wisdom together. Okay, enough with my introduction. Here, hopefully you see the face of your president, Joko Widodo. This is a newspaper, Korean paper, dated back to August 10th. So you might wonder what this is about. The title says, Nickel-rich country Indonesia and battery corporations are flocking in. So all the monies are heading to Indonesia because of the richness in natural resources. And President Joko Widodo is holding two things here. One, calculator. One, in Korean it says limitation on exporting natural resources. So many countries are really concerning the natural resources in Indonesia can be shared with other countries, and now the president is calculating how much we can get from these natural resources, and other countries want to share the benefit of having natural resources of Indonesia. Despite of all the WTO disputes and the blockings, but everybody in other countries need natural resources of Indonesia. So there are like three corporations listed here to cooperate, having consortium with the Indonesian other company or government. So, what is rich in Indonesia? There are actually made videos in Korea about the nickel and also other natural resources needed by Korean companies. Especially nickel is very important for us to make a cell phone and also the cars, electronic cars. Okay, so here the issue goes. There are actually 4 issues that we can think of. First one is, how do we balance economic benefit versus peaceful environment, meaning the using the environment, maybe the keeping the environment as it is. The solution from the international society so far is a sustainable development, and also there is a procedural democracy, means when environment is developed, when there is a village, they need, for example, nickel, and they need the approval of the village people. So how they get the approval and consent of the people is a procedural democracy. So in that matter, they also requires transparency. So we are going to talk about the sustainable development. Second, the topic also points actually behind the scene is who gets what. The company gets all the benefit, or the people living there share the benefit. So in terms of international agreement and also the domestic laws points that we share benefits, right? So how do we share benefits? I'm going to share the experience of Korean companies. The example of a nuclear power station, they share their richness to the village and how much they contribute. What's the benefit of the people living there? You can see the examples of it. Number 3 issue is a conflict among bureaucracy. So actually, because this developing natural resources cover many departments in government section. Not only the industry, it also covers environmental department. Also, it covers all the territorial interest parts. So if we think about the government sector, it also covers many, but not only that, there are people living there, also the companies who want to develop. So how can we solve this problem of a bureaucracy, also the matters of many interest parties? Number 4, so far, I don't think there is like a good way of solving it, but there's a problem we can point out. Number 4 is a conflict among laws and regulations. This is actually big headache, especially in Indonesia. There are so many laws, there are so many regulations, and they are in conflict. So the solving the problem is one of the issues that Korea also have faced. We gather together, and now we have an automatic system of solving the conflicts among the laws. So maybe we can have this system, but Indonesia is much bigger than Korea. So you have to come up with the better ideas of solving the conflict. So why am I talking of conflicts of laws and regulations? Because it is also part of developing natural resources. So 4 issues has been the issue of Korea when we developed natural resources. Korea also has a mining. We had a mining, and there are mining fields that are still developing. There are actually many, but the system goes, it's all covered by the computer, and they monitor through the CCTVs, and these are now not the problem. We are wisely using those natural resources. So this is one government sector. They control all the matters relating to the natural resources. So KOMIR, this homepage give all the information regarding the business opportunities and how the government is controlling the natural resources of Korea. This is only the rule they are suggesting. So I'm going to talk about here 3 stages. I talked about 4 issues, and there are 3 stages of developing natural resources. So first one is before developing the natural resources, and second is during the developing natural resources. And third stage is after all the development is over, what happened to that field? What happened to the environment? So that's 3 stages, and 4 issues comes to 1 before, during, and after. So I'm going to discuss about the environmental impact assessment matters. So I'm sure most of the countries, they have environmental impact assessment. Korea was a very strict enforcing environmental impact assessment, meaning that you want to make a road and you need to have this impact assessment, environmental impact assessment. Unless you pass this assessment, you cannot build the road. So now this year, this became the headache of development. The Korean government decided to have a lower the standard of environmental impact assessment. But what is good is that getting public opinion. See, here is a just capture of the many incidences that we had with all kinds of environmental development. Citizen gets the opportunity to talk about what is the issue, what am I interested, I don't want this, make it this plan change. They can share all the informations, all the opinions together. Of course, this is a nice way of doing it. Second way is a protest. They also protest. Sometimes it can be very aggressive, but peaceful. It has to be peaceful. And then the three stages, they all get to the public opinion. So having public participation to get the public opinion is very, very important. And that is why we need environment impact assessment before developing environment. So consider that as just suggestion. Also, of course, Indonesia is doing assessment before natural resource development. Here, as a Korean natural resource statistics, so we have all the maps. It is open to the public. So why are they opening? Are they opening all the information to the public? Is that unless all the information is transparent, they tend to use inside information to their own benefit. So government has to be transparent. So having it all e-database and controlled by the e-document, make a government more transparent. That is the first thing to make this environment and economic balance. It has to be transparent. So who is using what information about natural resources is very important to develop environment safely and effectively, and also for the people. So they take care of all the data matters like access time, what information has been seen by whom, and who has printed out what document. So that transparency actually guarantees stable development of environment. Okay. Also, what happened to the field work is that they have this drone. Everything has to be video recorded, and drone controls the patrol, the supervise the site of a development. So no illegal or other outside of scope development. So sometimes people get a permit and they do the things outside of scope, and they do the things outside of document. So they control everything through the drone and a CCTV to have it transparent. So that actually blocks the over developing the environment. So that is very important. So what I'm suggesting is web page.
Apa tadi Bapak bilang?
So using inside information is actually very illegal and prohibited. And they get all the punishment if they use illegally inner information. So inside information, if you're a committee member, you cannot buy land because you're having inside information. You should not buy the land because you have inside information. Okay. So second one is the first issue was the balancing, right? Second one is who is getting how much, right? That is for the excess and benefit sharing, but in person of a domestic inquiry. So here is a swimming pool constructed by the nuclear power station. So they built this swimming pool for the benefit of this village people. Here is a very near Busan, it's a Gijang, and they have a low price swimming pool. How much do I pay to get there? It's $1, and during the weekend I only pay $2 for using this swimming pool. And also there is like people living near the development site of the nuclear power station. They get 50% cut of the electricity bills. So they also have a very economic benefit every month. They can see themselves. So they say, okay, I don't have any health problem, and I get the 50% off of the electricity bills. Okay, it's good to live near the nuclear power station. That's the sense of it. At the beginning of the developing of the nuclear power station, people wanted to move out. So this development company, they all paid moving expense and all the expenses they need to move out. And then at the last clip of this presentation, I will show you now what happened. Okay? And also they donate many of the things to the village festivals. They do free education lectures to the citizens. They even have a job opportunity quotas, which is very important to people. And nuclear power station, they were $1 million payment for the their salary. So it is very beneficial for the people who live nearby, gets the job opportunity there. And also they get the free health checkup, sorry, for the type of health checkup for the warding of the health during the development of environment. What happens, secondary effect to the environment, do I get sick, and what if I get sick? They also get the free checkup, and if there is a problem, they all pay their bills. This is a part of a polluter pays principle applied to the development of environment. Okay? And this is during the management of the natural resource development, both government and the company, they supervise and they inspect. Sometimes companies, they promise to things during the development, they do it differently. So supervision during the development is a very important. So yearly basis, mine damage inspection is a plan, and that plan has to be enforced according to their plan. They cannot change the plan. So that is a very important. Stable plan, stable enforcement, right? That was the thing in Korea when we developed the mine. Also, what is important is that when they make mining, they have to apply best technology available. So when you develop like a nuclear power station in Indonesia, I heard that the Indonesian is adopting nuclear power station, and in actually in Gijang, Busan, there are like many Indonesian scientists has having classes learning nuclear development now. It has been for more than 5 years, as I know. So best technology available means that they have to apply best technology when they develop environment. And second, very important one is due diligence. Due diligence is actually laid down in all the laws, but due diligence in science is very important for them to have a better technology enforced, and also they have like a safety policy with the due diligence. So due diligence guarantees many safety factors in developing environment. In Korea, that was the case. Okay, so after development, this is very important. You have to see the case of what happens after environment has been developed and everything is closed down. Here is the case. So they check the mine damage recovery, and post damagement they have like a very strict post management. Because they're very serious about the secondary damage to the food chain and agriculture produce. So the standard is very high, strict, and this is how they manage. So they make polluted water quality, they make a purifying construction, and they make all the waters clean. So this is necessary and mandatory. And the road has been ruined because of the development. They have to make it.
Hello, Professor.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, let's continue.
It was already open. What wasn't it?
Two more minutes, please. Thank you.
Okay. So also for the road, it has to be forest and land recovery is like this. This is exactly the picture taken before and after of the mining field of Korea. Okay. And here, what happened to this mining field in Korea is that they made a casino. And many people in Korea, casino, you cannot go. So only the foreigners can enter. But this casino, the government allowed the domestic people can go there. And people enjoy there. And they also made a water park, a very nice one. So after mining field has been developed, they also they can enjoy the development of a new industry. So number 3, the issue was that what happened to the conflict among many the department is that they make a higher committee. They make a higher committee and cover this all the conflicts. This is what happened. I have the case of a mining in a Bulawaman village. So they had like central government gave up controlling it, and then local government was taking care of the duty, but central government didn't allot any of the budget. So local government could not hire person to supervise it, and then there was no inspection. That's what happened to the Bulawaman village, and that was a problem with the supervision and development of the environment. So here, remember I promised to show you, this is a picture. Here I want to share. This is a nuclear power station. And at the beginning, people wanted to move out. So everybody ran out from the site, and they don't want to stay near the nuclear power station. Now what happened is that near this nuclear power station, there are 100 cafes. And here's my friends from Indonesia. There are law faculties of students. And so nice to be here. And even the price of land can increase because of the scene and everything. So you never know. So it can be better to develop it. But for the professor, what he said, climate change is a factor for the development. So we have to consider Korea is expecting to enforce new laws having climate change with the green development. So that is not enforced yet. We have totally changed the law. That will be for 2024, and hopefully these 4 issues I mentioned: economic, environment balance, and also benefit sharing, having the superpower over all the department control, and solving the problem of law of regulation conflicts. That will really actually was the one how the Korean government has to solve the problem of the economic development in natural resources. Thank you for having me, and I really appreciate you taking this course.
Thank you very much, Professor Park. That's very interesting, excellent presentation, and I think many participants will ask, later in the Q&A session. So the next presenter, I will briefly talk about his CV. Professor Peter Verhezen. Hello, Professor. He is actually the expert is global governance practice, geopolitics, and risk management. It is very relevant, and responsible leadership and ESG investing, digital innovation, and then all AI machine learning. I think is very, very famous because a lot of seminars, conference, he become a guest speaker, such as in the European Parliament, Oxford University, Hong Kong University, and also I think he is also Indonesianist, because a lot of research, is doing in Indonesia. So, Professor Peter, time and monitor is yours, within 20 minutes, more or less, Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so very much for having me here. Can you see the screen?
Yes, very clear.
All right, all right. So let me just go straight to what I want to do in this 20 minutes. There are many perspectives that you can take on natural resources. The one I will take is a business perspective, or more particularly a firm's perspective. So when I advise boards, board of directors of organizations, a lot of discussion today is about sustainability and how to deal with natural resources, particularly in Southeast Asia, Indonesia, to start with, but not just there. It's basically a global movement trend of being more mindful of our ecological boundaries. So the first slide I want to show you is a little bit of, if we talk about natural management of natural resources, it's also a risk issue. And risk is something that's very important for any organization. So if you're looking at this slide, this is basically mapping the probability of events to happen, as well as the impact, which is nothing but the definition of risk. Risk is basically a potential event that may happen in the future and that will have an effect on us, be it us as a nation, individual, or organization. And what you do see there, just look at the colors. A lot of the green colors are the ones that have the biggest probability to happen and have an enormous impact. And quite a bit is related directly to these natural resources. If you're looking at this one in terms of probability, the last few years, you see very clearly that organizations and governments are more and more concerned about extreme weather, about climate action failure, about environmental damage, about biodiversity loss, all related to those ecological boundaries that the previous speaker have been referring to. If you took it, and that's basically the likelihood of the probability. If you're looking at the impact, obviously the first one in 2021, 2022 was COVID, and that was the time number one. But look, if you would have today, 2023, and there may come up very soon another survey, then I'm pretty sure that climate action is again on top number one. And so again, climate action, biodiversity, all issues that are directly correlated or related, I should say, to natural resources. So here are another few facts. If you're looking at the CO2 emissions, and I just was informed by my daughter who is living in Jakarta that you need to wear masks in Jakarta right now. Now, I've been living for 25 years in Jakarta, and I know there's a lot of pollution, but I wasn't aware that it's getting that bad. And so I will be back in a month from now, meaning a lot of cities, be it Jakarta, but be it Beijing, Shanghai, you just name them, Bangkok, all those cities, Ho Chi Minh, they're all basically, you know, suffering from pollution and mainly related to, yes, pollution in general. And of course, the climate change and CO2 action, CO2 emissions do not help either. What's quite interesting, if you're looking just over the last 30, 40, 50 years, there's an incredible increase of those CO2 emissions human-made. And the graph is self-explanatory. Now here is basically what you see, what citizens are doing. If we would all live like Americans or Europeans for that matter, then we would need 3 planets. We only have 1 planet. So it's unsustainable. And yes, the United States is still the biggest polluter per person, but followed by the Middle East, Europe, and China per person. And that's, of course, worrisome because big population like China, today China is the biggest polluter, absolutely speaking, in the world, obviously because 1.3, 1.4 billion people. So these are issues that cannot be ignored. And if you're looking at just over history, you look, and because sometimes people say, yes, but the Westerners, they have been polluting so for so many years. It's true. And here is the fact. The fact is, over the last 300 years, 1750 to 2019, Europe is the biggest polluter, accumulatively. But China is close by. And so is the United States, obviously, is the biggest one. So over the last 300 years, there is no excuse from anybody anymore. If you accumulate all the CO2 emissions, we all are in the same street, and we better be careful. We better start thinking how to solve it. And that brings me then to these ecological boundaries. You see them here on the left-hand side. It's about climate change, but not just climate change. There is biodiversity, there is issues around fresh water usage, you just name it. All issues related to natural resources that are under serious constraints today because of human activities. If you add also a social foundation, and I'm referring to Professor Rayward from Oxford, so she wrote an interesting book, The Donut Economics, where she said, okay, the ecological boundaries are very clearly described by the United Nations and by so many other institutions. We also should think about the social foundations, which are related. And we need to live more within the boundaries and the constraints and the limitations of what nature is offering us. We cannot just go on and go on. And similarly, those will have social implications. Again, I'm not going to talk about that. I promise I will talk about the firm's perspective.
Excuse me, Professor?
Yes.
Peter,
yep.
Your slide seems to me it doesn't move.
Oh, does it move? Oh my gosh. Which one did you not see? Okay, so basically I've shown you this.
Thank you.
Then I shown you this slide, which basically shows that the CO2 emissions are increasing. And this one, interestingly, as I said, United States is the biggest one, followed by Europe and then China over the last 300 years. I'm looking at South Korea. South Korea is not so small one either, 17 there for one country. It's not small. Saudi Arabia, with less population, is as big over the last 300 years. And then I was saying the boundaries here. So these are the boundaries that you see today in the world. Those are translated by the United Nations in 17 Sustainable Development Goals that you all may have heard of, all right? So I'm not going to go in detail, obviously. Here you see they're divided in the biosphere. They're then related to the society and economy. And we're really talking about those four major ones, the natural resources that you see related directly to the biosphere. Here it shows you a survey last year looking at countries, how much they've been dealing with it. And you see clearly number 14, 15 there related to natural resources. We are not doing not much at all. And that's unfortunate. Yes, we have been doing quite a bit about, issues around, social equality and whatever you have, 43%, number 5 there, gender equality. But if you're looking at fresh water and you're looking at the land use, 18%, I mean, that means we are hardly doing enough to deal with those issues. So we are really, in a sense, I would say it's really a big issue. And that brings me to business strategy and firms. So firms basically looking at 4 pillars, and it all started 30 years ago about corporate social responsibility. Today, we're talking about ESG, ecological, social, governance issues, and sustainability. And so the pillars are definitely about the planet, the ecological boundaries, the people, which is to do with the social issues, and of course, profit still necessary for any organization to survive. And all that underpinned by governance principles. So I just wrote a book, and what I'm arguing in that book is that we need to be stewards as an organization, and we really need to be not just smart, but also wise. And I will explain that. Meaning, we need, of course, to optimize the shareholder value. That's no doubt. I'm still business oriented. I'm still a former businessman and entrepreneur. But at the same time, firms cannot ignore those boundaries that I've been trying to describe. And for that, you need to really think about other stakeholders, not just employees and customers. That's still part of business models. But more and more, you cannot ignore the communities in which you operate. And that brings me then indeed to what I call wise decision-making that basically looks at, okay, you need to be smart based on innovation, based on reducing your risk, based on whatever it is, better decision-making. But anybody who is smart and doesn't think about the broader environment, social, ethical, and literally the ecological boundaries is not going to be justifiable as a business. And so wisdom, it's an old word that has been used by philosophers for the last 2,500 years, is something that I describe in the book as necessary. Business people need to really think about these ecological issues. And so basically the model is simple. Smart leaders that are successful are those that are willing or able to reduce their errors in decision-making, as well as trying to reduce uncertainty, because business is about investing for the future where there are opportunities. That means you need to understand that future, which means you need to try, if you can, using AI, artificial intelligence, using digitization, whatever it is, to reduce that uncertainty so that you predict the future, that you're ahead of your competitors, and that you serve your customers. You need to be innovative. And how you do that? By being insightful. So this is what smart leaders do, no doubt. But it doesn't make you a wise leader. And that's the next slide. Wise leaders are those that have the same skill sets that I just described, but they also will need to have the wisdom, having a broader perspective, which includes indeed the concern for natural resources, which I've described as ESG. So, as I said, it's all to do with economic, social, and environmental issues, which are described in this ESG. ESG is nothing but this. And again, for those interested, there's a lot of literature around it. You have an environmental pillar. It's about what is your carbon emissions, the CO2 that I was referring to, but it's not just that. It's also about what is it that you do with the vulnerability to climate change as an organization. What is your water stress? How do you deal with biodiversity? What's your waste? How are you dealing with waste? How are you dealing with pollution? All those issues can be described and measured, similar to the social pillar, same to the governance. So consultants from the Big Four and myself and so many other consultants and advisors, what we're trying to do is having a kind of metrics that you try to measure, not perfectly, definitely we admit that, but at least trying to come up with some metrics that you can determine how much you're dealing with ecological issues, social and governance issues within the organization. And that's crucial. Here are some more, you can read them. I'm not go through all that, but all those are basically the metrics that you're using for ESG rating and ESG reporting. Today, it's not just customers who want firms to be proper in terms of ecological and social issues, but it's also investors. And that's important. Investors today are concerned because it's risk. If you're not dealing with natural resources management properly as an organization, you're not going to be, properly rated, and that will downgrade your, risk-adjusted return prospects in the market. And so it's a question of risk to me. I mean, as a philosopher, obviously, I would argue you should do it because it's morally the right thing to do. But people in finance don't think along that way. They think about risk return. Now, I tell you what, climate change is seriously affecting the risks. And we see that. I mean, the disasters we have. Even insurance companies today are concerned about this climate action because are they going to be responsible to pay out insurances for something that is getting bigger and bigger and bigger? These are all issues that firms are concerned of, obviously. Now here, and I will be very brief, ESG and environmental issues also can, is a business case. It's not a business, it's just those customers who want to have, let's say, more sustainable products. But also, it's a question of reducing your costs. It's a question of having your legitimacy with respect to the government. If you have good relation with the government because you're a good corporate citizen, that will help you a lot. The productivity will be upgraded because people want to work for organizations that are doing the right thing, and so forth. And investors, as I just said, they are really concerned. So they want you to be more mindful about those ecological boundaries. Now, today, the European and the world, not just the Europeans, I mention the Europeans because they're the first ones who have, let's say, quite strict regulations with respect to ecological boundaries. But it's the world today who are working with IFRS, the International Sustainability Standards Board, that came up with guidelines of how you have to report. Any organization that is dealing with Europeans in terms of products selling in Europe or being operating in Europe will need to comply from 2025 onwards with respect to ESG reporting. So any organization in the world will not, if you want to do business in Europe, will need to comply. And more, also the Americans are on board, the Asians are on board. So everybody has agreed in principle on reporting on ecological, social, and governance issues. The question is how strict it will be implemented needs to be seen. Here is basically a study that I just got from McKinsey, and it shows you that if you are indeed serious about ESG, which of course is what I'm trying to argue for, does that guarantee success? And the answer is no. Why not? Because it's not because you're doing good things for sustainability and ecological that will lead automatically to profit. No. But here is the interesting insight of the study. And that's what you see there in the middle. Those organizations that have a proper strategy, and they are able to integrate and align those ecological, social governance matrices that I've been describing, they will have a return on investment of roughly 7% above the average. But that implies that you need to have a growth strategy that's inclusive and that is delivering returns. There's no good to be an idealistic person without having returns. And that's the next slide, very briefly, because my time is running out. What is this graphic showing you? This is a study published in the Harvard Business Review. And what it shows is on the x-axis is the shareholder return, profitability. The more to the right, the more profits. On the y-axis, vertically, it's the social environmental performance, which is the ES, okay, of the ESG rating. And what you see is all these dots that you see there on the graph are organizations in the world. And you see they're all over the place. And you can divide all these organizations in the world in 4 major quadrants. Left up is called the idealist. These are organizations that are very idealistic about environment, but unfortunately, they don't make money. In the long term, as a finance person, I will tell you, they will disappear. They will be acquired. They will go bankrupt because they don't make money for the shareholders. So it's not going to work. Left under, on the left-hand side, you have the laggards. Those organizations who are not performing at all on the ESG or the ES, and they're not making money either. Same thing. They're not going to survive over the next 5 years or 10 years. They will be absorbed, they will be acquired, but they will go bankrupt. The ones that are really good or interesting to us is the ones that make money. Everything on the right-hand side. But then you have the exploiters that just make a lot of money for their shareholders, but they don't care about the environment. Those are the exploiters that will survive and they will be in business, but will not be seen as champions. The trendsetters are those that are performing on the 2 criteria, on profitability and on ES. Now, the champions is what you see on the right-hand side in that rectangular. And there are a couple of companies mentioned. One of my favorites is Natura. You see that Natura on the line there? Natura is a Brazilian company. They just acquired Body Shop. Now, Natura is a Brazilian company, cosmetics company. And they really competing with the big cosmetics companies in the world. And they are making a huge money for their shareholders. Now, Natura is a cosmetic company that is using the Amazon Aboriginal knowledge on herbs and on plants to make beauty products. And they do that very sustainably. They are serious about their communities in the Amazon and so on and so forth. So they are quite highly rated on the ecological and the social rating, and that's what this benefit of resources is all about. And they're also making money. These are the champions. These are the people. These are organizations that we favor because they are doing pretty well on all matrices. The other one you've heard of, the Teslas. Now, Tesla is going to be under competition because all automotive manufacturers, including the wonderful South Korean car manufacturers and the Japanese, they're all going electric. Why is that? Because that's the trend. If you don't, you're on the risk. You may still like your diesel and your combustion engine, but the trend is consumers want now, being more mindful, they want electric vehicles. Now, remember, economic value, how the stock market reacts, it's about looking how you exploit your current assets and how you explore, let's say, new opportunities in the business. That's how the stock price is determined. And that's why Tesla is so highly rated, because they see Tesla not just doing the environmental right thing to do, but they see it's a cash money-making machine, and it will continue to do so in the future. Hence the high stock price of Tesla. Here is another example, and then I guess I need to conclude. Schiphol is the airport in Amsterdam, about 200 kilometers away from where I'm sitting here in Belgium. And what they've done is, interestingly, they changed their business model. They're working with Philips. Now, any airport needs lights, okay, lamps. So usually the traditional one is you buy lamps. Now here, the business model has changed. As a result of this whole awareness of SDGs and whatever you have, ecological boundaries, we need to go more into a circular model. So what I've done is, instead of buying lamps, they said to Philips, okay, we are partnering with you. We don't want to buy lamps from you. You will be paid a fee per month for providing light, meaning you're responsible for light. So the ownership of the lamps you see there is still owned by Philips. Schiphol, the airport, just pays Philips to provide that light. Now, why is that to do with natural resources, and why is that a good thing? Because now, in those LED lamps that you see there, there are sensors. Those sensors beam information through the Internet of Things to headquarters at Philips. That information is absorbed, is analyzed, and through AI algorithms, Philips now know at beforehand which lamps need to be replaced or to be maintained, whatever it is. So technology here is going hand in hand with sustainability, because now you don't have to wait until the lamp breaks down. You just prepare yourself and you make sure that the life cycle of the lamps are much longer because you're responsible. And not only that, you're going to recuperate everything of that lamp, meaning it becomes circular. You don't waste it. You don't just replace it. No, you take it out and you use the material for the next generation of lamps, because you need to reduce your waste. It's part of your bottom line. It's part of your profitability business model. And Schiphol, the airport authorities, they don't care. They just pay per fee, per whatever, per month for getting light. Now, that is what business is moving to. And I think that's a good thing. Now, we're not there yet. As you see on this graphic, only 33% of the world in terms of firms are serious about this vision of ecological management of resources. 43%, and unfortunately, I've been in Indonesia for a long time. Indonesia is not yet on the trend where it should be. 43% in the world. This is not just Indonesia. This is the world. 43% in the world of all organizations are still myopic. They don't see the urgency of what we just explained. That's something that's concerned. So yes, it's about creating value for an organization, but also maybe about sharing that value with communities, because it's a good business model. It's good business to do the right thing. And so what I'm really saying is, I'm going to skip a few. Here you also, just for information, you see here that the electricity from solars are dramatically, the cost is dramatically decreasing. So there is indeed a reason why we should move in the right direction using renewable energy and so on and so forth, which will help us to reduce the dependency on fuel that we are, just extracting from our planet. And last, I just finished another work where we argue that you only can manage your natural resources better if your board of directors is in it. There's no point of middle managers, young people. Unfortunately, there's no point if the board is not buying in. The board needs to make the decision that this is important. That's what we argue in the book. I worked for IFC World Bank for many years on governance, and that's exactly what we're trying to tell people. If the board who represents the owners are not serious about managing natural resources, unfortunately, not much is going to happen. So I'm saying it is the responsibility, not of only the young people. The young people know we are really in problems if we're not going to change track. It's our generation, the old folks, the ones with the money that are the directors on boards. Those are the people that needs to really think seriously. They need to think about ecological boundaries. And so indeed, I'm saying we need responsible leadership that will take wise decisions seriously, because being smart and making money is one thing. Today, not good enough. Necessary, but not good enough, not sufficient. So we need serious thinking about ecology. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor. Amazing. Frankly speaking, I would like to give you more time, but we realize I'm in Papua right now, maybe already 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock. Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. It is how useful it is. And for the next presenter, yeah, I'd like to invite the national one, the local one, yeah, Dr. Henry Renjan, yeah, for the next speaker. And then I briefly give the information about Dr. Henricus Renjang, SIMH. Right now, he is the expertise, yeah, in Papua, West Papua province, and also lecturer in STIH Charitas, yeah, and then he used to become a head of the I think bureau, law and human right in the Manokwari, yeah. Okay, time and monitor is yours, Dr. Henricus.
Thank you, Professor Wasis Susatyo. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a pleasure to take a part of the international webinar on the new paradigm with legal as of natural resource. So let me express on behalf for STIH Charitas Papua Manokwari gratitude and appreciation to Professor Robert Habar, yeah, as head of school law, Charitas Manokwari, and our honored speakers. The distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I would like to start this presentation with Indonesian language. So we start topik yang menjadi fokus materi saya pada diskusi kita pada sore ini lebih pada bagaimana pendekatan kebijakan pengelolaan sumber daya alam pada sektor pertambangan Indonesia. Mencermati dua narasumber sebelumnya, mereka sudah memberikan kita gambaran terkait dalam perspektif global, ya, regional juga tadi sudah disampaikan, dan mungkin pada sore ini saya mencoba untuk mendekatkan kita pada kondisi kita di Indonesia ini seperti apa. Mungkin saya mulai dari konsep paradigma, ya, paradigma atau paradigm tadi, ya, itu penting perlu kita sama-sama memahami sehingga kita meletakkan hubungan antara kebijakan pengelolaan sumber daya alam, ya, khususnya di pertambangan dengan aspek lingkungan atau ekologi ini. Kita perlu menempatkan pada porsi yang seimbang, ya, dalam kebijakan pembangunan secara umum di Indonesia dan mungkin di daerah, ya. Istimewa kita kalau melihat pada daerah-daerah penghasil sumber daya alam ini menjadi catatan yang mungkin menjadi diskusi kita pada sore hari ini. Jadi bicara paradigma itu sebenarnya lebih melihat pada kata lain lebih pada pandangan atau dasar mengenai kehidupan makhluk hidup, ya, biotik, abiotik, dan relasi sesama makhluk hidup itu sendiri. Dan paradigma itu memberi makna bahwa dan nilai bahwa masing-masing makhluk hidup itu akhirnya menjadi landasan untuk menentukan relasinya. Jadi relasi antara manusia dengan alam ini satu refleksi bagi kita untuk bagaimana kita mencermati kebijakan pengelolaan sumber daya alam khususnya di bidang pertambangan di Indonesia ini. Dan berangkat dari tiga paradigma besar, yaitu antroposentrisme dan biosentrisme dan ekosentrisme, itu sebenarnya melihat bahwa di situ ada pertentangan di mana kadang-kadang manusia lebih menonjolkan, ya, perlu menjadi prioritas, padahal di sisi lain kepentingan alam, kepentingan lingkungan juga sangat penting sebenarnya. Ini dua hal yang perlu menjadi pencermatan kita dalam mencoba untuk mencari paradigma baru dalam pengelolaan sumber daya alam di Indonesia. Nah, mungkin teman-teman yang perlu kita cermati adalah bagaimana kita melihat bahwa terkait dengan paradigma kebijakan pengelolaan sumber daya alam ini sebenarnya kita akan lebih fokus pada bagaimana paham paradigma ini menempatkan kedudukan alam itu dan relasinya dengan manusia itu sendiri. Nah, paradigma kebijakan pengelolaan sumber daya alam tentunya itu sudah pasti memposisikan alam itu harus setara dengan dan terikat dalam relasi yang memang pada intinya menentukan keseimbangan, ya, keseimbangan. Jadi paradigma yang mungkin nanti akan kita diskusikan ini sebenarnya mengingatkan kita untuk bagaimana membangun model pengelolaan sumber daya alam itu ke depan, seyogianya itu berorientasi pada keberlanjutan dengan mempertimbangkan kepentingan manusia di satu sisi dan alam, ya, itu yang menjadi enter point kita pada sore hari ini. Dan isu diskusi yang perlu yang saya angkat dalam materi pada sore hari ini adalah bagaimana kita mencermati paradigma kebijakan pengelolaan sumber daya alam di bidang pertambangan di satu sisi, lalu di sisi lain kita juga akan melihat aspek ekologinya dalam pengelolaan sumber daya pertambangan itu sendiri, lalu bagaimana menempatkan paradigma pengelolaan sumber daya alam yang berbasis masyarakat adat atau MHA, ya, itu juga menjadi catatan penting untuk bagaimana melihat atau membangun suatu paradigma baru terkait dengan kebijakan pengelolaan sumber daya alam di bidang pertambangan di Indonesia. Ini 3 isu yang menjadi catatan kita. Lalu teman-teman, bahwa isu kebijakan pengelolaan sumber daya alam di bidang pertambangan ini sebenarnya kita letakkan pada 2 sisi yang harus ya nanti akan kita tunjukkan. Yang pertama, bahwa sumber daya alam ya, secara faktual kan sumber daya alam kita kan terbatas, ya, dari sisi pertambangan kan terbatas. Lalu di satu sisi dituntut ada bahwa kekayaan alam ini merupakan warisan generasi akan datang. Di satu sisi dituntut dalam pengelolaan juga harus memperhatikan aspek lingkungan. Itu juga menjadi isu tersendiri. Lalu jika dihadapkan dengan program kebijakan pemerintah, kebijakan negara, kan kita dihadapkan pada bagaimana kepentingan ekonomi, kesejahteraan, investasi, dan pendapatan dan penerimaan negara. Itu juga menjadi satu kebutuhan, satu yang penting juga, 2 hal yang saling berlawanan. Nah, di sisi lain, persoalan isu terkait dengan kebijakan pengelolaan sumber daya alam di bidang pertambangan ini juga sangat terkait dengan isu sentral dalam keamanan dan ketahanan nasional, ya. Itu juga menjadi PR juga untuk bisa kita cermati bersama. Untuk itu, untuk menyeimbangkan 2 hal ini, maka bagi saya prinsip keadilan dalam mengakses sumber daya alam sangat penting. Itu harus dikedepankan karena ini mengingat prinsip keadilan antar generasi itu juga menjadi kunci dari bagaimana kita membangun kebijakan pengelolaan sumber daya alam di Indonesia ke depan. Jadi apa yang kita nikmati hari ini, bagaimana dengan anak cucu kita atau generasi yang akan datang. Nah, prinsip keadilan inilah yang menjadi poin penting yang harus kita refleksikan dalam segala kebijakan pengelolaan sumber daya alam di Indonesia. Nah, isu yang menarik lagi yang terkait dengan kondisi di daerah, ya, misalnya kita bicara terkait dengan isu natural resource course, bicara tentang kondisi ketika negara atau wilayah dengan kekayaan sumber daya alam yang berlimpah, itu dalam prakteknya cenderung itu berkembang lebih lambat, ya, daripada negara atau wilayah dengan sumber daya alam yang terbatas. Nah, kalau kita ambil contoh, ya, kita di Papua misalnya kan kaya akan sumber daya alam tetapi lambat, ya, berkembang cepat, lambat atau kurang berkembang, ya, pembangunannya pun tidak sama seperti di daerah-daerah lain yang sudah maju, ya, seperti itu. Mungkin pun Kalimantan kita juga melihat, Aceh atau Riau. Nah, menurut saya fenomena ini merupakan bagian dari akibat lemahnya tata kelola, ya. Tata kelola tidak hanya di hulu tapi juga di hilir, ya. Ini juga menjadi catatan yang menjadi isu yang mungkin sama-sama kita berpikir bagaimana ke depan menyikapi persoalan-persoalan ini. Yang berikut, persoalan lain adalah bahwa risiko terbesar yang mengancam ekonomi global saat ini di masa mendatang adalah risiko lingkungan. Itu juga yang tadi saya sampaikan, bahwa rusaknya ekosistem dan menurunnya ketersediaan jasa ekosistem yang dibutuhkan oleh kehidupan generasi mendatang itu juga menjadi catatan. Karena memang kalau dalam prakteknya banyak penelitian yang sudah berhasil menyimpulkan bahwa hampir semua perizinan dan konsesi sumber daya alam itu banyak melibatkan patronasi politik ya, bisnis, sehingga memang kadang-kadang itu menjadi bisnis elit politik, dan itu sudah hal yang sering terjadi. Begitupun tumpang tindih izin konsesi ya, di hutan konservasi dan hutan lindung dan segala macam, itu juga menjadi catatan. Lalu izin usaha pertambangan ya, yang tidak menempatkan dana jaminan reklamasi ya. Jadi kadang-kadang dalam praktek di daerah biasanya ya si pengusaha datang cuma hanya beli iup tambang lalu pergi gitu. Nah, seperti itu kondisi yang harus disikapi bersama. Nah, kita mengetahui bahwa tujuan dari kebijakan pengelolaan sumber daya alam atau di bidang pertambangan itu pada dasarnya itu bertujuan meningkatkan nilai manfaat dari sumber daya alam itu sendiri ya, sekaligus menjaga keberlanjutan keberadaan lintas generasi. Bagi saya ini sangat penting. Mengoptimalkan penyelenggaraan pengelolaannya, meningkatkan manfaat ekonomi dan kualitas sumber daya manusianya, dan meningkatkan kemandirian ketahanan internasional berbasis sumber daya alam, dan meningkatkan kesejahteraan dan kemakmuran rakyat. Sebenarnya itulah tujuan utama dari suatu kebijakan pengelolaan sumber daya alam. Idealnya seperti itu. Lalu dalam kebijakan itu pasti memperhatikan prinsip-prinsip ya, prinsip-prinsip pengelolaan. Itu juga menjadi catatan bahwa SDA itu harus dimanfaatkan, dikelola. Tujuan kemakmuran kesejahteraan secara berkelanjutan dari generasi-generasi itu juga menjadi penting. Harus juga dimanfaatkan dan dilakukan secara adil ya, karena bicara soal bagaimana atau antar generasi dalam kesejahteraan gender itu juga menjadi perhatian, juga menjadi catatan. Lalu yang berikut, kebijakan dan praktek-praktek pengelolaan sumber harus bersifat spesifik lokal dan disesuaikan dengan kondisi ekosistem dan masyarakat setempat. Ini juga penting, kadang-kadang sering terjadi konflik di lapangan seperti itu. Jadi itu juga menjadi catatan yang perlu diperhatikan. Lalu yang berikut terkait orientasi dan strategi ya. Bagaimana kita harus memiliki orientasi dan strategi pencapaian suatu tujuan kebijakan pengelolaan sumber daya alam itu sendiri. Pertama, kita bicara soal resources oriented conservation. Jadi kita tidak bagaimana kita mengelola sumber daya alam, tapi juga memperhatikan aspek konservasi atau pembangunan berkelanjutannya seperti itu. Dan begitu pun terkait dengan akses to pengakuan dan perlindungan masyarakat, pemanfaatan sumber daya alam. Nah, yang paling penting adalah legal pluralisme, itu juga penting. Bagaimana kita melihat hukum adat ya yang hidup dan berkembang di masyarakat di wilayah-wilayah pertambangan, itu juga menjadi catatan. Lalu tadi sudah saya sampaikan bahwa banyak kelemahan yang terjadi karena faktor tata kelola sebenarnya. Tata kelola dalam pengelolaan sumber daya alam. Jadi bagi saya adalah sangat penting tata kelola pemanfaatan yang tepat dan efektif yang harus perlu dikembangkan ke depan. Pertama, bagaimana instrumen untuk menanggulangi kemiskinan itu sendiri ya, karena memang itulah tujuannya dari sektor pertambangan. Terus mendorong pertumbuhan ekonomi serta mendorong pembangunan yang menjangkau masyarakat di lingkaran tambang yang tinggal di sekitar wilayah industri pertambangan dan terkena dampak langsung dari operasi pertambangan. Ini juga menjadi catatan penting dan sering terjadi konflik di sana. Bahwa alokasi pendataan sumber daya alam pertambangannya ini diharapkan mampu membangun manfaat yang optimal bagi pelayanan publik dan kepentingan masyarakat. Ini penting karena apa artinya kalau investasinya masuk tetapi tidak membawa perubahan dalam masyarakat sekitar, itu juga satu persoalan. Dan yang paling penting adalah pengelolaan untuk kesejahteraan dan kemakmuran bersama, itu juga memperhatikan kesejahteraan generasi mendatang. Nah, komponen dalam tata kelola sumber daya alam sektor pertambangan itu kan tadi ada 4 bagian yang menjadi catatan. Pertama, regulasi yang tadi sudah disoroti oleh Prof. Pars tadi, bahwa persoalan tumpang tindih ya, disharmoni itu juga. Jadi ini juga persoalan PR yang masih terus berproses ya di Indonesia terkait dengan perizinan usaha ya, regulasinya. Terus politik ya, kelembagaan dan pasar. Itu juga 4 komponen ini sangat penting dalam menjalankan tata kelola sumber daya alam. Nah, hal yang memang tadi sudah saya sampaikan bahwa tidak bisa lepas dari seperti dua sisi mata uang ya. Pengolahan pertambangan di satu sisi, tapi aspek ekologi juga di sisi lain, itu menjadi dua hal yang saling terkait dan harus diperhatikan. Pertama, bahwa prinsipnya manfaat yang besar dari sumber daya alam itu ya hanya dinikmati oleh generasi lebih tua, ya kita yang saat ini. Generasi lebih muda hanya memperoleh sisa, bahkan harus membayar biaya kerusakan sumber daya alam dan lingkungan. Ini merefleksikan bahwa aspek lingkungan sangat penting sekali dalam pengolahan sumber daya alam, khususnya di sektor pertambangan. Nah, untuk itu tanggung jawab negara ya. Kita tanggung jawab negara sebagai pelaksana dari perlindungan dan pengolahan lingkungan hidup. Yang pertama adalah negara harus menjamin bahwa pemanfaatan sumber daya alam yang akan memberikan manfaat yang sebesar-besarnya bagi kesejahteraan dan mutu hidup rakyat, baik generasi masa kini maupun masa yang akan datang. Yang kedua, negara harus menjamin bahwa warga negara menjamin atas lingkungan hidup yang baik dan layak. Negara mencegah dilakukannya kegiatan pemanfaatan sumber daya alam yang menimbulkan pencemaran atau kerusakan lingkungan hidup. Dan tentu pasti dalam pelaksanaannya penegakan atau law enforcement ya di bidang lingkungan hidup menjadi penting untuk mengawal pengolahan sumber daya alam di bidang pertambangan tersebut. Nah, untuk itu paradigma yang bagi saya menjadi catatan yang mungkin sesuai topik yang hari ini kita bicara soal paradigma, saya pikir kita harus letakkan pada satu bentuk paradigma pengolahan sumber daya alam yang berbasis pada masyarakat adat atau HMH, karena menurut saya komunitas masyarakat adat ini sangat penting, di mana wilayah-wilayah pertambangan itu sangat bersentuhan langsung atau sangat resistensi dengan basis masyarakat, komunitas masyarakat adat, sehingga perlu menjadi catatan kita untuk mencermati isu-isu yang seringkali muncul dalam pengolahan sumber daya alam di wilayah-wilayah masyarakat hukum adat di Indonesia. Itu pertama, tidak sedikit konflik berbasis daya Indonesia itu berawal dari adanya perbedaan sistem ya, sistem. Kadang-kadang pangkal konflik itu saling mengklaim legitimasi atas aturan yang berlaku, itu kadang-kadang yang terjadi di lapangan. Pengusaha datang dengan mengantongi izin, dan bagaimana masyarakat adat mempertahankan dengan hukum adat yang hidup dalam masyarakat di wilayah-wilayah pertambangan, itu satu persoalan. Lalu kadang-kadang saling ya seperti saya bilang tadi, saling mengklaim ya kepemilikan berdasarkan aturan formal ya, dihadapkan dengan kondisi hukum yang hidup dalam masyarakat, itu juga menjadi catatan. Untuk itu bagi saya sistem pengolahan sumber daya berbasis MHA ke depan itu perlu mempertimbangkan aturan-aturan lokal adat, kearifan lokal dengan masyarakat sebagai aktor penentu ya dalam pengolahan sumber daya alam di Indonesia. Untuk itu bagi saya paradigma atau paradigma pengolahan sumber daya alam berbasis masyarakat adat ini sangat penting menjadi catatan untuk coba kita angkat di dalam kebijakan pengolahan sumber daya alam di Indonesia. Nah, untuk itu paradigma kebijakan pengolahan sumber daya alam berbasis masyarakat adat tadi ke depan itu bagi saya perlu yang menjadi catatan adalah bahwa kita mendorong peningkatan etika sosial, kearifan lingkungan, religi, sistem teknologi maupun peran sosial di kalangan masyarakat ya, di kalangan masyarakat adat itu juga menjadi catatan. Dan yang terakhir mengakui dan mengakomodasi adanya kemajuan hukum legal pluralisme yang tumbuh dan berkembang dalam kehidupan masyarakat kita ya, terus masyarakat adat itu sendiri. Ini catatan penting yang bagi saya penting untuk menginspirasi kita dalam atau memperkuat kebijakan pengolahan sumber daya alam khususnya di bidang pertambangan ke depan. Terima kasih, saya kembalikan. Thanks, Prof. Wasis.
Terima kasih, Dr. Hendrik ya. Prof. Hendrik ya. Audience, because of Professor Peter would like to leave early, he has something to go. So I let before continuing to another speaker, the last speaker, Dr. David, Maybe we open the question and Q&A session special for the Professor Peter. If someone who want to ask something, yeah, to Professor Peter, I let you to ask. Just give us the maybe the sign, like raise hand sign. Anybody want to ask to Professor Peter? Yeah, because he wanna leave early. Something has to do. Yeah. Anyone want to ask to Professor Peter, or just let your answer to text in the chat room? Yeah, and then after that, maybe I will pass through to Professor Peter. Is it okay, Professor Peter?
Yeah, no, sure. I mean, it's not I want to leave. I did foresee 2 full hours for the seminar, and so I'm happy to be here. It's just that I have to talk to, was it now Egypt? So they're coming all over the world, and I'm very privileged in that sense. But apparently Saturdays is a time that all the boards can talk to me, and that's the reason that I had a commitment. So no, I'm still here for another 20 minutes. So I still can help.
Anyone?
And I'll always help, willing to chat, and if people want to ask me questions, please feel free to do so. Otherwise, I'll put my email. Can I put it on a chat? My email?
Oh yeah.
Or will you?
Thank you very much.
Trying to so.
Or maybe may I ask you?
Yeah, please, you can ask anything. Here's my email.
That's very intriguing about, you know, sorry.
All right, I can still hear you. What's that? You go ahead.
Yeah, recently our president, you know, we have like the policy to hamper the raw material, especially for the nickel. Yeah, and this is like a forbidden to raw material of nickel to export, especially to abroad. Yeah, wherever it is. Yeah, and the response from the European community, especially, yeah, it seems like yeah, not what do you, yeah, get angry, is it? Because this is kind of the global supply chain. Yeah, it seems to be like disturbing by the forbidden of ore and then nickel raw material. So maybe what maybe any recent?
Yeah, well, it's a very good point you're making there. There are many aspects to that question. Let me tell you this. I've seen the world, and more I start to be convinced that politicians and business people sometimes are cynical. And I may be honest straight with you. I think the Western world is a hypocrite. Okay. So I'm very straightforward on these issues. But at the same time, Pak Jokowi needs to understand realpolitik. From a business perspective, or purely from an economic perspective, I think he's correct. In the supply chain, a nickel export is giving you money, but there is no added value in terms of, you know, raw material. It's like gas and oil. I mean, as long as the commodity prices are high, you benefit. But if the commodity prices are low, you better start to add value. Hence why the most highly valued organizations in the world are not raw material corporations, but those that add value, the Teslas, the Amazons, and whatever it is. So from an economic perspective, adding value in the process and not just exporting nickel makes a lot of sense from an economic perspective. Now, if you talk about the market principles and the WTO and Indonesia has signed on that, yeah, you have an open market. And if you start that to play nationalistic policies but so do Europe, and so does the US, and so does China. I mean, there's nothing special about that. It's the big players that determine, in that sense, a little bit what the rules are. But I think there are a couple of reasons why Jokowi is doing this, and again, politically it makes sense, but he has to be careful not to stir up too much emotions because it could backfire. So, like everything in life, it's a balance. And I've seen that also. It's a balance between profit and ecological boundaries. You need to make money. I mean, I'm not against that. I'm for that. But you cannot just, and so the same with policies. You can try to be ultra nationalistic, but you isolate yourself if you're not careful. And I don't think he is. I think Jokowi is doing a good job in that sense. I'm not sure what the reasons are behind. I don't think it's an economic reason, the one I just explained to you. Because why then? Why you still exporting palm oil, or why you still? I mean, then you could also argue the same thing there. Indonesia, with the wealth of raw materials, is exporting, and the GDP of Indonesia is depending so much on the incredible wealth. But that's been a given because Almighty gave it to you. But that doesn't mean if you're going to compete in the world, and China understands that, and so does South Korea. They're very smart. You need to add value. And in those two countries, after World War II, who was completely destroyed, Japan and West Germany have no raw materials. Look what they achieved. They're one of the best engineers in the world. They're beating the crap out of everybody. And South Korea is doing the same. They follow the Japanese rule book. They don't have too much more materials. But look, the incredible economy of South Korea, a much smaller country as Indonesia. I think, to be honest, Indonesia should learn from it and start to think about, in that sense, economically, yes, you don't just want to export nickel. Use the nickel to make products that are added value. But that's, of course, a long way game. So having said that, I think it's realpolitik. The Westerners are upset because they need the nickel. Fine, let them pay. Don't listen to them, but play the politics well. Don't think about yourself only. You are in a world where you need to be dependent on each other, including the West. Right. You need the West, and the West needs you. So in that sense, I'm a big fan of indeed international trade. I benefited from it, but at the same time, I understand the politics. I understand nationalistic feelings. I fully understand that. You don't want to be determined by the West. You don't want to be determined by China either. So play your game well. Play it very well, and I think Indonesia will benefit. That would be my short answer.
Oh, thank you. Great point. Okay. All right. Still, anyone would like to ask? Yeah. Just give us the sign of raise hand. Anyone you want to ask?
Or chat box.
Very, very good opportunity, because we invite the expertise. Yeah, I think the global expertise of environmental, not only environmental but economic aspect of.
But please, I'm not an expert on raw materials and all that, but it's a very good question. I don't have the full answer, but yeah.
Because we concern about our, as you said before, as in your presentation, this is very critical time for Indonesia, yeah, related to our environmental. Right? Maybe anyone would like to ask? Yeah.
Excuse me, Wasis.
Yeah.
May I?
Go ahead.
Hi, Mr. Peter. My name is Togar. I'm from the Juanda University of Bogor, Indonesia, close to Jakarta. Interesting to hear about your presentation. As you notice, our government, or Indonesia government, has issued some regulation which prohibit to export nickel directly, as you mentioned earlier. You agree with that? What the reason is we are sued by the European community and some of the company in especially in Europe, and the cases we failed. So how do you think the European community can maintain the sustainability of the environment? By in other side, they say that we agree to maintain the environment, but in other side, they don't want to do that. So what is your concern about that? Thank you, Mr. Peter.
Thank you for the question. I just want to make sure I understand the question. So you're asking how the European community perceives the policy by Jokowi not to export nickel, which is the same question as before, or are you asking more how they want to maintain sustainability using nickel that is necessary for electric vehicles, for instance? Is that what your question is?
Yes, but priority is number one.
As I said, yeah, each country has the right and the duty to protect their own resources in their own country. But we're living in a global village, in a global world where we need each other. Now, raw materials is necessary in the supply chain. And unfortunately, raw materials are not determined, unless you have a monopoly or oligopoly, are not determined by a nation. It's global prices. As I said, if you talk about nickel, don't worry too much about what people think, but make sure that you do it in a transparent manner and that you make, or not, but then you pay realpolitik. But realpolitik, you need to have the power to push back. And China can do that because they're so huge. But again, look at what's happening. If I look to China, US, it's an unfortunate thing that they start to fight each other and nobody wins. China is going to lose and America is going to lose. There is no win-win solution in this. So any purely nationalistic zero-sum game, as the word says, it's like president's dilemma. You don't trust each other. You go for a suboptimal equilibrium. And so the same Indonesia, fortunately for Indonesia, Indonesia has many good friends. And I think the Europeans consider Indonesia as a very good friend. And so does the US. So I'm not so worried about the nickel. I think we shouldn't blow it up. It's just a policy that the Europeans didn't like. So what? Don't worry about it. As long as you keep friends and you don't completely isolate, that's the only thing that's concerned to me. I mean, there's going to be a new president next year, so who knows what's going to happen? To me, it's about realpolitik and one again, economically, add as much value as you can in the supply chain. Isn't that logic? And so purely exporting raw material could be profitable. But I mean, again, you export coal, you're one of the biggest exporters of coal. Now, the future of coal in the next 50 years is going to be limited, but short term, you still make a lot of money. But coal is not a renewable, it's not a renewable energy. It's just like gas and oil. You extract it, you export it, and that's it. And it's quite polluting. So the same thing. I understand Indonesia still exports. But from an ecological perspective, long term, it doesn't make sense. We need to go for renewable energy, not extracting coal and gas and oil and whatever you have. So the same with nickel. But nickel is different because they need it for electric cars and all that. So again, I'm not an expert on raw materials, but if I read in between the lines, I think it makes sense. Maybe short term. I think maybe he's using nationalistic to spur up the elections or whatever it is. Maybe that's also. I mean, you cannot ignore that. But I wouldn't concern too much. Europe is still a friend of Indonesia.
Oh, good. Thank you. Okay, Professor. Yep, Pak Dr. Togar. Yeah, it is enough because he must leave right now. Thank you very much indeed, Professor Peter. It is very beneficial, useful, and then we got an amazing point from you. I think we can maybe next time you can.
I'm more than happy, and thank you for him. And my apology to everybody in the participants. Thank you to the colleagues who've been presenting. It's just that Saturday's boards feel like they can talk to me. They don't have time in the weekdays. So I'm working weekends. So my apology for this. I wish you success. And once more, thank you for having me here and all the best.
All right. Thank you. See you later. Yeah. Okay. And then we continue our presenting right now. The last one is last but not least, Dr. David, Professor David from India, Jawaharlal Nehru. I'm sorry. Yeah, excuse us because we need the time to Q&A first for that. Oh, thank you, Professor David. You're so nice. Sorry about that.
I'm not professor yet, but thank you so much, Papa. Am I audible?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And can I request that you please share my slide if you don't mind, because my internet is quite patchy out here because it's raining here, and ever since our floods happened in Delhi, we have had a problem of internet being off at any point of time.
Okay.
So I'm logging in from my phone and my laptop, both, just as a back.
We will have to
so
put your slide. Ocha, tolong slide-nya Professor David. Okay. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so 20 minutes, sir?
Yes.
Is it?
Yes.
Yeah, so my time starts now. Let me start my timer. Thank you so much. At the outset, I thank Professor Vasis and the organizers of this conference for giving me this opportunity, and my eminent co-panelists, Professor Park, Professor Vahesan, Professor Renjan, all for, please go to the first slide. We'll go to the first slide. Is it visible? Yeah. So the topic that I have selected is emerging paradigms of natural resources jurisprudence, a legal study from India. Now, the reason that I'm presenting a legal study from India is not to say that India is perfect. We still have huge problems, but because our world is so interconnected that the experiences that India has can give an opportunity, a learning opportunity to our equally developing Asian countries like Korea and Indonesia. We are much more culturally and economically, and we are intertwined. So to start off, I will say that the relevance of natural resources is well understood, but more so to countries like India and Indonesia, wherein we are at the stage of development wherein we are emerging onto the world stage. Now, India, it is the 7th largest stage by area. It has a large amount of natural resources. But very recently, in 2023, we became the world's most populous nation. We overtook China. So there are more people in China than there are more people in India than in China today. In fact, every 4.2 person is an Indian today in the world. So despite that, despite the low ratio of land and resources to per capita distribution, we are a rapidly developing economy. It is largely based on information technology and banking sectors and other service sectors, but also we are developing in the industrial manufacturing sector. And that is where the resources that are present in India, they become very important. The land, the minerals that are in the land, the forest cover, the biodiversity, the ecological resource that we have, water, fresh water, marine resources, stretching from a live catch of fish to multi-metallic nodules that we are extracting from the seabed. So all of these things, they contribute tremendously to the development of the country, and not only the country. I would say here that there are multiple stakeholders actually in this. India is not only the stakeholder in this resource extraction or resource management that we do, because apart from Indians themselves, there are many countries which are dependent on India for several of the needs. I'll just cite one example is Maldives. Maldives is a small island nation in the Indian Ocean, and all the baby food and milk is supplied from India to Maldives. So what happens there is that if India's milk supply chain, or if it is if the natural resource of animal cattle is harmed, countries very far away from India can also feel the effect of it. And to that extent, I again emphasize that maybe the world is today divided by political boundaries, especially so with in our Asian countries, we have a heritage of post-colonial divisions. Earlier, we were all one people, and we are still one people, despite the division of boundaries and territories that we have. And it is only the single world that we have. It's only one world, and it's our world. So we have to be, we have to think in terms of resources universally. Now, when there are multiple stakeholders in any resource that we consider, let it be minerals. If we consider minerals, there is the land, the people who live on the land, indigenous communities maybe. Then there are the multinational companies who are putting in the money, who are extracting. Then there are the processing units which will process the raw material into usable form, and then there are the other companies which will market them. So there is a whole chain of multiple stakeholders, and in this case, conflicts become inevitable and role of courts becomes emergent. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Excuse me.
Yes.
Yeah. Next slide, please.
Next.
Yeah. So in this regard, the legal structure becomes very important. No. The previous slide, please. The previous slide. The second slide. Third slide.
Sebelumnya.
Third slide.
Habis ini, setelah ini. Yeah. Is it legal structure?
Yeah. Third slide, legal structures. Yeah. So in this regard, we have to understand the legal structure. So here I have written down the legal structure proceeding from weaker to stronger. Elements. So India is bound by its international law obligations under Article 253, but India is a dualist state. So until and unless the parliament makes a law in this regard, the international obligations signed by the government of India are not directly applicable in India. So in regard of that, the government has enacted a lot of laws, as we'll see in the statutory legislations when we come to that. But common law remedies are also available. Common law remedies like those under tort law of torts, in which there is no legislation, but it is based on the law of equity, and equitable remedies are available. Then we have remedies under the criminal law and the civil procedure code, etc. Like if someone is polluting or someone is creating a disturbance, they can be prosecuted under section 268 to 278 of the Indian Penal Code, or under section 133 of the Criminal Procedure Code for creating nuisance. And in the criminal case, they will be sent to jail. And if they are civilly prosecuted under section 9 and 91 of the Civil Procedure Code, either for private nuisance or public nuisance is a class action that is taken on behalf of several people, the party is bound to pay damages in the form of money for that. Now, statutory legislation, there are many legislations. The main ones among them are the Water Act, the Prevention of Water Pollution Act, the Forest Conservation Act, the Air Act, and the Environment Protection Act, Biological Diversity Act, and very importantly, we must remember this, I'll come back to again, the Forest Rights Act, which recognizes the rights of indigenous communities and people to the land. So all of these are on the model of control and command. They are very implemented by the government officials. Most of these acts are implemented by the provincial governments. So India has a federal system. So at the union government level, there are certain subjects, and these environmental legislations fall within the ambit of the state governments. Different parts of India, the legislations related to environment and natural resource extraction are quite different within India itself. And under these laws, there are many regulations and rules which govern subjects like mining, like extraction of oil, like natural resource extraction, like collecting honey or timber, etc. All of these come under these. So they are managed by what we call subordinate legislation in common law remedies. These are legislations that are made under the statutory legislations. Now, under the Article 14, one important thing is that Article 14 says under constitutional law, there are certain fundamental rights. These fundamental rights are guaranteed to every citizen of India, and some of them are guaranteed to every person in India. Like the following articles are guaranteed to every person in India. So it does not matter if you're a foreigner. If you are in India, you can avail of these rights. The first one is Article 14, which speaks about equality. So in the common law system that India follows, we have something called stare decisis, which means that the law made by the parliament is actually interpreted by the courts. And what the courts say the law is, that is the law, not what is written in the book. This was very aptly stated by Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes of USA, who said that law is not what is written in the books, but law is what the judge says the law means. So we follow the same system. So in this case, what we find is that the court has played a very important role in interpreting the usually very pithy, very small statements and giving them meaning. So Article 14, which guarantees equality, has been held to mean that every person has a right to a equally good system of health and development. It cannot be that some parts of the country are more developed than the others, and that is why we have a federal system of distribution of assets. So if a state is running more, it is taxed more, and that money is used in states which are poorer. Apart from that, Article 21, which is also available to all citizens, is that no person shall be deprived of life or liberty except according to procedure established by law. And in Menka Gandhi versus India, this Supreme Court in a landmark case has decided that life is not mere animal existence, but included various other facets into it. So these 16 words that are mentioned in the Constitution of India, they have interpreted it to mean much more, and they have said that it includes a right to a good environment, right to enjoy there, and especially a good life. Similarly, Article 47, it enforces on the government a duty to not only preserve, but develop environment and natural resources for the benefit of the people of India. So ultimately, it says, and Article 47, the last part, 48A and 51AG, they actually give a duty to the citizens to preserve natural environment and natural resources. So next slide, please. So in theory, next slide, please. Next slide. Yeah. So so in theory, what happens is that in the resources of India, it belongs to the people. Now, the doctors are available in all countries. The one previous, please. The third, please go up. Please go up. Please go up.
Yeah, lagi.
Principle legal doctrines. The fourth slide, please. The fourth slide, please.
Satu lagi, yang bawahnya.
Excuse me.
Naik. Yeah. Is it, Professor David? Hello, Professor David?
Am I audible, Bapa? Am I audible? Yeah, principal legal doctrines. Yes, please. So in this principal legal doctrines, these are the legal doctrines that are available to all that are, I believe, are available everywhere in all the countries. We have the sustainable development, both intergenerational equity, and all that has been interpreted by the Supreme Court of India in the Narmada Bachao Andolan versus Union of India case. Also the polluter pays principle, and earlier we had tortious strict liability, which was based on the British pre-colonial case of Rylands versus Fletcher. Now, that case has now limited application because the court used tortious strict liability, or they have developed a new concept of absolute liability, to which will come. Now, tortious liability, strict liability was that if someone has a dangerous substance or dangerous thing and it escapes and causes damage, or the substance is used non-naturally, then there is liability. But it also had several exceptions, like default of the plaintiff, consent of plaintiff, common benefit to both plaintiff and defendant, and wrongful act of third party, force majeure act of God, that is, and statutory authority, etc. But this has been more or less put in the cold storage presently in India. Now, the precautionary principle that if you are doing a business, you must take care of for providing all the benefits to the people in case there is any sort of providing damages in case there is any damage which happens due to your undertaking is also quite well established in India. The important thing is that in MC Mehta versus Kamal Nath case, the Supreme Court has held that the government does not own the natural resources of India. So it is benefit from the sale of natural resources of India. Rather, the government is in the position of public trustee on behalf of the citizens of India. That has again been upheld in rural litigation and entitlement case. And we have recognized that every person has a right to development and public right to the resources. The question is balancing economic and natural resources. So in certain cases, the rights of the people and the development, the government, the courts have taken a very balanced view in this regard, and they have chosen in certain cases that people should not be interfered with. They have chosen the right of the public in one case, and maybe in other cases they have chosen that factories should be open, extractive or mining should be done, etc. Thank you. Next slide, please. Yeah. So this is the crux of the matter on which I want to discuss today. So these are certain emerging judicial trends which are seen in India, very pertinent and maybe also discussed by countries in our neighborhood who face similar issues and problems. Everyone knows about the Bhopal gas leak tragedy which happened in 1984, in which died, and it was a multinational company working in India, the Union Carbide Corporation, and this of the
Hello? Hello? Professor David? Wow, it looks get a technical problem. Okay, I think we can continue our session. If Professor, I try to check Professor David, yeah? Hello, Professor. I think we can continue with the Q&A session.
Hello.
Here, I think we have still Professor Park, and then also Dr. And we can make a discussion to, yeah. While I'm trying to contact Professor David. Yeah. Is there anyone to ask Professor Park or Dr. David? Maybe just raise your hand. Yeah. Push your button in the symbol of raise hand, please. Hello. Let me contact Professor David. Yeah, maybe anyone? Ocha, tolong ininya dihapus dulu yeah. Yeah, still remain Professor Park. Thank you very much, Professor Park here, yeah. And then also Dr. Hendrik, yeah. Maybe if anyone would like to ask about the presentation or any related issues about our discussion today. Natural resources management. This is very interesting topic, I think. Yeah. Is there any? Professor Park, are you still there?
I'm here. Sure, I'm here.
All right. Yeah, maybe just starting to make a warm up this session. Yeah, I just want to know about the South Korean experience, especially for the how to manage their a natural resource. But as far as I know, in the South Korean, you don't have which kind of natural resource you have that possible to convert to be energy. Yeah, because as far as I know, we don't you don't have many kind of natural resource to be converted.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Prof, we used to mine the core. That was in Gangwon province. Core was the main source of natural resources, and also we have a little bit of a dispute with Japan over the small island. And this island below it, there are many natural resources. That's why this island become the dispute spot over a very small one. And we have many island near China, and also it's the same situation that why we are having a sea dispute is a part of the natural resource dispute.
Okay.
Korea has a core, and of course, the Daegu, they have also the little bit of a nickel. We have a little bit of a natural resources, but not many. Yeah.
So that's why now your country focus on the battery, because you have also the nickel and lithium, is it?
Lithium, and lithium is a part of coming out from the salt.
So is there big regulation or law, to regulate the natural resource related to the how to improve their capability to be energy?
Yeah, let me share a very interesting stock market situation in Korea. Korea, we have like a stock market is going down, but two things are stable. One is the battery company making the secondary battery, and the interesting thing is that there's a very lucrative benefit for the people who invested into SALT, SALT. And why is the salt become interesting is that many people like to extract the lithium from the salt. And the western part of Korea, there's a big field of salt. And that has a very a big part of gadolinium, which is richer than fret. So that is why this one company called the Terra Science, because very part of many people putting their whole money into this $10 stock market. And last Friday, it was like ASAP, as soon as the stock market opened, it stopped because everybody was putting their money into this lithium extracting company.
That's kind of the future energy.
Yeah, but it's a very not. I think it's not gamble. It's a gamble. But it's a part of natural resource investment.
Okay, great. Maybe anyone want to ask Dr. Hendrik? Dr. Hendrik, tadi menarik ya apa yang sudah disampaikan. Ini saya pikir ini hari ini diskusi kita bisa membuka juga kemungkinan kita mengusulkan kebijakan-kebijakan terutama di daerah-daerah yang sangat ekstraktif ya untuk eksploitasi eksploitasi tambangnya, termasuk di Papua ya. Karena dengan perbandingan hari ini ya, kita bisa melihat bagaimana beberapa model terutama di Korea dan juga tadi Uni Eropa ya, Uni Eropa sendiri sudah mengakui mereka sendiri secara politis ya itu banyak diuntungkan selama ini ya dengan cara mengeksploitasi kita gitu. Mungkin ada komen Pak Dr. Hendrik?
Ya, baik. Terima kasih Pak Prof. Wasis. Jadi memang persoalan pengakuan masyarakat adat di wilayah pertambangan ini memang sangat menarik ya untuk nanti itu menjadi rekomendasi dalam pengambilan kebijakan di daerah ya. Banyak kita kalau mencermati perkembangan terkini memang ada kewenangan pemerintah provinsi saat ini memang diberikan kewenangan terkait misalnya batu bara ya, mineral dan batu bara itu kan kewenangan itu sudah ada di tingkat provinsi seperti itu.
Ya.
Jadi memang lebih dekat ke daerah, artinya ada kalau kewenangan itu melekat pada provinsi maka lebih dekat ke masyarakat adat dan wilayah-wilayah pertambangan itu. Cuma persoalannya sekarang kewenangan itu berpihak atau tidak pada masyarakat adat setempat. Ini yang harus kita lihat ke depan isu ini, karena persoalan konflik di wilayah-wilayah pertambangan itu sebenarnya itu bagaimana mereka bisa mendapatkan tempat di sana, kompensasinya seperti apa ya, sehingga memang itu perlu diberesin dulu lah kalau menurut saya itu.
Ini dengan adanya RUU masyarakat adat itu juga perlu didorong ya, termasuk ini ada satu hal kemarin ketika kita baru saja ada konferensi kemarin ya, salah satu pembicara dari New York itu memberikan satu enlightenment gitu ya, bahwa di beberapa negara di dunia keterlibatan dari masyarakat hukum adat ya, dia menjadi satu legal entity ya, berbadan hukum jadinya Prof, dan itu dilibatkan di dalam pengelolaan sumber daya alamnya Prof. Jadi bentuknya itu semacam diberikan kayak di Tanzania contohnya, itu diberikan semacam participating interest Prof. Ya, kalau sekarang kan BUMD.
Ya.
BUMD itu kan ya kan masih government langsung kepada masyarakat. Nah ya di cara itu. Kalau memang itu tertarik punya satu proyek itu bagus Prof yang
ya jadi izin Pak Prof Wasis, jadi memang sama ya, saat ini juga ada beberapa riset ya di Papua ya, khususnya Pak Ibu Ana Cenau saat ini ya, beliau adalah kepala biro saat ini di Papua Barat Daya, sedang menyelesaikan program doktornya di Unhas dan beliau meneliti terkait dengan itu Prof. Jadi terkait dengan bagaimana masyarakat itu mengambil bagian di dalam misalnya pengelolaan dana bagi hasil dan migas di Teluk Bintuni misalnya, itu bagaimana masyarakat hak ulayatnya itu dikompensasi dalam bentuk saham sebenarnya. Ini yang beliau mencoba untuk mengembangkan itu, dan hasil penelitian dia kemarin sudah mengarah ke sana, bagaimana merekomendasikan supaya kompensasi ganti rugi masyarakat adat itu di wilayah pertambangan atau pemilik hak ulayat itu untuk minyak dan gas ya di Bintuni itu, khususnya di masyarakat suku Sebiar itu memang dikompensasikan dalam bentuk saham, sehingga memang dan juga supaya misalnya suatu saat selain mereka menikmati keuntungan dari reality dari investasi itu juga terkait juga dengan bagaimana tanah yang diberikan untuk pengelolaan itu bisa kembali ke kemudian hari sebenarnya. Sebenarnya itu juga menarik ya, untuk mungkin nanti itu dikembangkan di wilayah-wilayah pertambangan yang kebetulan penguasaan itu ada pada masyarakat adat setempat seperti itu.
Oke. Wah, ini bagus sekali nih kalau menjadi satu pemikiran. Maybe sorry, Profesor David, you come back ya. Okay, great. So You have done or not?
I was just speaking about the last slide, which is the most important part. If you just give me 3-4 minutes, I'll just complete it. So India has come up with this new doctrine, which is called Doctrine of Absolute Liability, which does not admit any exceptions. If there is a problem, then compensatory jurisdiction in which remedial relief for proved infringement of fundamental right will be awarded. Thirdly, this is also something very important. You know the concept of locus standi, that you can only file a case if you are directly affected. But that has been diluted in case of natural resources law and environmental law in India, to the extent that if there is a group of people like poor tribal people who do not know that they are being affected by the problem. So indigenous people living in the forest may not be knowing how the upstream extraction may harm them. In that case, a person who is not connected, who is not an indigenous person, a lawyer, for example, can, sitting in Delhi also, file a case on their behalf. So that is a dilution of the locus standi principle that has been taken. Moreover, as has been brought out by the other speakers much more eloquently, decentralization, community ownership and participation of the community has been provided for, and biocultural and indigenous rights have been identified. So if a community feels that a certain plot of land is relevant to them culturally or religiously, then the consent of the community before its utilization for natural resource purposes, as well as the benefit sharing, whatever comes out from there. If there is a diamond mine which is under some tribe's land in the forests, the benefit sharing must be shared with the community. And the last, and this is perhaps the most important jurisprudential trend that has happened, is that they have started giving legal personality to legal personality and rights. So like we have companies, they are giving juristic personality to rights. As of now, we have given juristic personality to rivers, to lakes, to glaciers, hills, and certain varieties of wild rice which grow in India. So the government is the trustee for that, and these, like as in juristic persons, these are considered to be minor. So if a person harms a lake, pollutes a lake, for example, or if a glacier is affected due to climate change, due to industrial activity in a certain vicinity, then there is a new trend that the government can act on behalf of the river, and that the river itself has got a right to be a person at law. So these are the new emerging jurisprudential trends. And the final slide, please. Despite all of these, the final slide, please. And despite all of these, there remain several issues. India has not resolved them. Compensation, whether or not the compensation is should be monetary, especially in case of religious and cultural rights, people's belief systems are connected with it. That is something that needs to be discussed, and maybe we will learn from other countries as well. Forest rights of indigenous people and development of natural resources for their own development is something that we are looking at. Climate change, disasters, forced migration, the resultant unrest is something that India will also face in the coming days. And of course, culture and traditional knowledge, intellectual property rights. In many cases, we are losing languages. Entire indigenous languages are lost. No longer anyone speaks indigenous languages, or 1 or 2 people are only living who are speaking these languages. So these intellectual properties, we have to consider how we will deal with these. And then there are also the matter of unexplored resources at risk. Now we are extracting resources from one sort of place, but maybe we are killing off, like if we are extracting timber from a forest, maybe we are killing off some medicinal plant which has got the cure for cancer or AIDS. So we are putting our unexplored resources at risk, which I believe is also very pertinent to Indonesia. The development in the Borneo forests, we do not even know all the species of plants which are there. So all of these water, land, minerals, forests, etc., how they will be utilized, how they will be benefit shared. This is something that India is still struggling with, and we are trying to emerge new paradigms, and we are learning from others, and we hope that people will also learn from our legal experiences in this regard. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. Great. I think we still have time until 5 o'clock. I don't know, in Papua, 8 o'clock, yeah. This is, I got the point from you, if I'm not mistaken, that you mentioned about indigenous and tribe rights, and related to the natural resources management, yeah, and the company will give the profit sharing, is it?
Yes.
As the community or the like
profit sharing.
Profit sharing.
Yeah, the identified community, mediated through the government, of course, the state government, the provincial government will be the third party who will ensure that. But we have a lot of corruption, so corruption is another big problem we have.
They give the directly to the
no. What they do is they build schools, hospitals, colleges, institutions, better roads, facilities, maybe buildings for them, houses. So in different places we have different ways.
Okay, because we just discussed about maybe there is a mechanism, yes, special treatment to the indigenous community as the legal entity, and then they can get directly from the company. Okay, now
through the company, through the government.
Yeah, we go to the end of the session, yeah, and then we still have maybe that's about 20 minutes or 30 minutes for the Q&A session. If we still have some speakers here, Professor Park, Professor David, and Professor Hendrik. Maybe anyone want to ask about this session today? It is very interesting. Maybe.
Excuse me, Pak Wasis, may I again to open the question from another?
Oh yeah, please.
Yeah, hi, Professor Park and Ms. Peter. I think it's interesting to hear you have described about the compensation given by the government to the exploitation of the what they call it, of mining. Yeah. In this case, I want to ask you. I think both of you, but the implementation in your country and Korea and India. But is there any supervision? Is there any supervision or controlling mechanism, which is perhaps built by the people or by the NGO to control or to monitor the compensation given by the government to the due to the exploitation of mining? Is there any supervision or control mechanism or oversight from the people or NGO or perhaps any other kind of institution to control or to monitor that government has fulfilled their obligation due to the exploitation of mining? Ya, ke Prof. Hendrik, sorry. Saya rasa tidak semua daerah punya hukum adat, Dok, ya, Prof, ya, yang berkaitan dengan masalah pertanahan. Nah, itu mengatasinya gimana, Prof, kalau untuk daerah-daerah yang tidak ada hukum adatnya? Terima kasih, Pak Wasis.
Yeah, okay, thank you. I think the first question for first Professor Park, could you please to answer? And then the second one.
Okay, so let me share very briefly about the site that I have about who controls the supervision of the how they manage is that, let me share. The Professor Wasis also asked very good question that is Korea has any natural resource. So this is a map of Korea, and this is as you can see, these are the natural resources of South Korea and North Korea. And how we've been doing is that there is like a committee. So as I mentioned, I asked you to have like a superpower committee controlling all the matters relating to the natural resources. So otherwise, all the departments, they want to have their voices louder. So the Korean government decided to have the superpower committee just below the president, and this committee decides unify the decision on any kind of things relating to natural resources, same as climate change. So this is how we do it, and they decide how much the compensation should be, and how and the report should be given to them yearly basis, and they have to set the 5-year plan beforehand. So this committee controls that. So briefly, you need a committee. Yes. Thank you.
So sorry, so there is no special body or special NGO body or institution that has a right or obligation to do the monitoring.
Monitoring is done by the committee.
Okay. How about in India? Yeah, sorry, Pak. Di India gimana? How about in India, Mr. David?
Professor David, maybe you can answer.
Yeah. So in India, the government plays the mediating role, like I said. So if now the government has put a tax on all the companies which are doing mining, etc., on natural resource extraction, and what it does is that it either builds infrastructure, or if it gives compensation in the form of money, it goes through their identity link through the Aadhaar card. We have the social security system that all the citizens are required to have, and their bank accounts are linked to that. So the money goes through that subsidy or money or whatever dole goes through that. So there is, in theory, minimal leakage as far as this is concerned. If there are any issues that someone has not received money or some corruption has taken place, of course, the local NGOs, the people can take the matter up with the local authorities as well.
Okay.
But in India, it is more centralized. It's more government-centric.
Yeah, or more centralized. Yeah. This is for the all kind of mining.
In all sectors. In fact, anything that anyone has to get from the government will come from government coffers to your account directly through your identity document, linked account. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Pak Dr. Hendrik, tadi ada pertanyaan untuk Bapak. Ya, silakan.
Baik, terima kasih Pak Togar. Kalau untuk wilayah yang bukan masyarakat adat, pada prinsipnya adalah bahwa setiap penetapan wilayah pertambangan itu sudah pasti penting partisipasi masyarakat. Jadi bentuk partisipasinya biasanya itu biasanya diharapkan itu ada pada level, misalnya contoh penyusunan KLHS ya terkait dengan AMDAL ya, itu juga penting sekali di dalam pelaksanaan pengelolaan di wilayah pertambangan. Ini juga penting. Partisipasi masyarakat juga terkait juga di dalam misalnya program-program CSR-nya, itu juga penting karena prinsipnya adalah tidak membedakan apakah itu misalnya masyarakat adat ataupun di wilayah yang bukan masyarakat adat, masyarakat yang terdampak langsung itu menjadi penting poinnya untuk mereka itu diperhatikan dalam segala kebijakan pengelolaan itu sendiri, bahwa tujuan adalah masyarakat sekitar itu sejahtera ya, sama dengan masyarakat adat itu sendiri. Saya pikir itu partisipasi masyarakat itu sangat penting sekali di dalam setiap pengambilan kebijakan pengelolaan di wilayah pertambangan. Demikian, Prof.
Ya.
Terima kasih, Prof.
Terima kasih. Anyone else would like to ask? We still have time, maybe 10 more minutes. If not, I will conclude this seminar, this event. Is there anyone to ask? Okay. If not, okay, thank you. I think, yeah, I'd like to briefly conclude based on our discussion today. Yeah, it is many, I think today we got so many insight and perspective about the new paradigm in natural resource management today, considering that the world is facing various problems and critical problems, I think, related to the impact of natural resource management globally. Because if we talk in India and then also Korea as well, yeah, because now Korea, we know, like Japan, Korea, they focus on and then prefer to use the nuclear, yeah, as the energy, yeah. So it is kind of I think the potential problem, yeah, in the future of the impact of natural resource management. That has been going on for a very long time, yeah. We know that in the management of natural resource, yeah, very exploitative and extractive, yeah, as well as massive waste, yeah. So that's why, therefore, as a consequence from the first speaker, Professor Park conveyed the experience of natural resource management policies in Korea, yeah, as well as energy production by balancing economic and environmental benefits that are very, they are friendly, yeah. And Professor Peter also mentioned, yeah, regarding the SDGs parameter right now, yeah, we should concern about how to make a balance, yeah. What I said before, there is a way now, the method, I think, yeah, the method, what we call as the what is it, like natural resources management, yeah. They use the NRA, yeah, natural resources accounting, yeah. Professor Peter mentioned before, yeah, where welfare can be measured by the amount of the initial stock of natural resources plus new finding minus depreciation and environmental damage. It is very interesting, I think. Yeah, we can maybe make more or further discussion later. Yeah, and then the last, Dr. Henrik, it is very good because he has a description about how to use using also the contribution of the indigenous people, yeah, masyarakat adat, yeah, especially we should concern about them, yeah, and then how to invite them to involve to manage their natural resource circumstances around their living. And the last one is Professor David. They talk about the India's experience, yeah, which is many new rules, I think, yeah, related to the jurisdiction, because also, yeah, regarding the indigenous people and then the tribe, yeah. But in India, he spotted that still right now the natural resource management still in the authorization of the central government, yeah. So it is kind of centralized management. So I think the all perspective, the all experience of countries, yeah, today that we can try to contemplate about which the best way to, yeah, save our environmental, because the consequence of wrong or incorrect management of natural resources, it will cause the very, very dangerous for our next generation, yeah. So it can be said that please save our planet by nice and wise using the natural resources. Yeah, especially we know daily necessities just like water. Yeah, we don't talk about the water. Maybe later we can make a discussion about how important, very important, water for life. Yeah. Okay, I think this is conclusion of our discussion today. And then for the last one, I will extend our gratitude, yeah, and then also apology if any mistake in this session, yeah. So, is there any session? Take a picture session? So I think I will let the MC try to close this session, yeah? Thank you. MC, Mrs. Suaranya tidak ada, Mbak. Mute, please. Unmute, unmute. Suaranya tidak ada. Coba mungkin jangan pakai itu kali ya. Jangan pakai ya, dicabut aja. Ya. Tadi itu. Suaranya. Di unmute, Mbak. Unmute. Suaranya. Oke. Baik. Atau saya take over aja ya. Oke. Terima kasih sekali lagi kepada STI Caritas ya yang telah menyelenggarakan acara ini sangat luar biasa Pak Robert, sampai dengan terima banyak pengunjungnya ini ya, masih 84 orang. Tadi sempat menyentuh ke angka 141 orang ya, dan banyak sekali hal-hal yang kita dapati hari ini ya. Untuk itu mungkin kita ambil gambar dulu bersama ya. Coba untuk
open the video for all the participants.
Ini baru bagus suaranya. Ya.
Oh ya, okay. So please all the participants open the video. We are going to photo sesi. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Take a picture. Maybe once more. Okay. Okay. 1, 2, 3.
Ya, tolong dibuka ya kameranya.
Ya. Yeah. Also please all the participant boleh dibuka kameranya. Kita foto bersama untuk dokumentasi. Baik. Aha. Baik.
Bahasa Inggris saja.
Ya.
Nah. Oke, open. Semuanya boleh dibuka. Ya, baik. Baik, kita bersama. Boleh saya pandu untuk hitungan ketiga ya. 1, 2, 3. Sarangheyo. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for today. I'm Melina Ismail as a pastor of ceremony would like to thanks to our audience for the participation, and also we apologize if there are words or action that are less listening. Thank you so much. Terima kasih untuk semuanya. Terima kasih untuk weekendnya sudah berada bersama dengan kami. Sampai bertemu lagi di seminar-seminar berikutnya. Sukses selalu untuk semua, all the participants.
Nice weekend. Thank you.
Selamat sore.
Bye.
Terima kasih. Sore Ibu.
Thank you so much. Good evening.
Terima kasih.
Bye. See you
Bu
next time.
Novianti.
Thank you, Pak Dr. Wasis.
Was
Ya, terima kasih,
Terima kasih
Bu.
Pak Dedi.